Is my head on the screen?
Yes.
Oh. And the end of the other one at that end? Has the discomfort abated?
Yes. Yes, a bit better.
Hey, David.
Are we on?
We are, yeah, we're going to start in I know my phone was changing because it was in the lake. We'll just close the. So, hello everyone from Bonnevaux, wherever you are, whatever part of your floor you're on with family or pets. Welcome to yoga on Tuesday afternoon. So we're gonna start a short, simple sequence on a chair. So while we're waiting for the others to arrive here, you're welcome to go and get a chair for yourself. And there's some chairs here, so you may want to get a chair. There's also a folding chair. Yes, you need a chair, John.
I take chair work. What's the problem? We have arms.
No, no, good. Is this chair on? That's good. So just say yes if you got your chair.
Yes.
Okay, so come to the front of your seat. Yeah, and if you're, depending on how tall you are and the chair that you got, if your chair is quite low for you because you're tall, etc., and you feel that your knees are higher than your pelvis, then you might want to get a cushion or a folded blanket. It's not so important right now, but it'll just mean you struggle less to lift you up. And vice versa, if the chair is high for you, you can put your feet on a cushion. So ideally for chair work, but also just for sitting for long periods and for sitting for meditation, the axis of your hips here should be higher than your knees. So mine's level, and this is not a great chair. I mean, this is a disaster chair actually, because it's leaning backwards. But those are better chairs. This is a lean back and chill out chair.
It's a machine torture.
Yeah. But so basically your chair should allow your pelvis. Come on, Ian, come on. Your chair should put your pelvis slightly higher than your knees, which makes your pelvis want to fall forward towards, that's a good chair, fall forward towards your feet. It's kind of okay for now because we're going to be moving, but it's something that people have been asking about, so we'll look at it eventually in more detail. Yeah. So I'm going to give you this because you need good support. Yeah. If you have back trouble, you should always try to set that up for yourself, or if you're going to meditate or you're at a lecture. So Henriette, we've come to the front of the chair. Yeah. And just put your hands on your thighs, close your eyes, and just touch your thighs. Touch your thighs. Feel your beautiful wobbly knees, the size of your thighs under your hands. Feel the warmth of your hands. So we always start like this, coming to nearness. So coming away from the body as a problem, my posture is a problem. Am I going to be able to do this movement? All that stuff, all of that looking at the world through screens, selfies, and performance. People looking at my posture, which is just so unhelpful, sometimes violent. So touch. And touch very quickly quietens us down or makes us aware that we're bothered by something. Yeah, we have the inner thigh, and we have the outer thigh underneath. Yeah, so usually the hamstrings are very alive, like the adductors on the inner thigh. So when we touch, we feel a frisson, so to speak. And so you can just enjoy that. You're fine, stay there because of the camera. And settling, touching. Yeah, here stick that a little bit. And very quickly we realize, oh, I'm here and I feel my sense of weight. You might experience that as mass, as water, not the word weight. And sometimes there's content. Even if we don't like our weight, we're happy we're not full. That's one of the worst diseases a human being could have, is a disease of the vestibular system where you are always falling. which makes you unable to look at people, unable to talk to them, unable to express, because it's terrifying. So whether we like our weight or not, here we are, on the ground and it's safe. So we begin with weight, touch, and then we just notice the breath. You don't need to do any kind of correct breathing. Just notice I breathe in, comes in through my nose or my mouth. I feel my torso changing, letting the air in. I let the air out. So again, I'm near to my breath. I'm not controlling it and telling it how to be. We talked in a previous class that belly breathing is just one part of the way we breathe. It's not the better way. Belly breathing happens when we're quieting down. Chest breathing happens when we're rushing to catch the bus and excited. Ordinary daily breathing has both belly and chest going at the same time. The touch, coming near, being inside and outside, at ease. I feel my weight. I notice how that is on the chair. And I notice that my breath is moving me. Of course, we're doing the breathing, but we're not really so doing. The breathing happens. It's as if we're being breathed. And the breathing moves the body. It makes things oscillate, it juggles and jostles things. Yeah. Okay, so look down at your feet and bring your feet a little forward. So David, you're good. And then they don't need to be super parallel. They don't need to be super parallel. But if you find that your tendency is to turn up quite a bit, then just bring them in a bit. And if it's helpful and you just want to try, you can stick your heels out a bit. Yeah, and that kind of goes counter to the pulls in the back of the pelvic floor, which we've worked on every session, and we'll come back to them in a moment. So, but there's no rule, and getting symmetrical is with your eyes is deadly because you're looking at yourself. So that's nice, one foot is a bit further back than the other one. That's nice. That's because we're torsioning. Yeah. Okay, and then we're just going to drop the head, and we're going to curl down, and the hands are going to receive the weight of our bodies. Now, we've done all of these things lying down, and it's different, but we've done them lying down. So we're just curling down and curling back. Yeah. So you may have done this a million times. Normally, we should simply be careful when we curl down if we have a bother in the neck or the lower back because of an injury in the car or whatever. But if you go slowly and you rest your head down through the chest onto your hands, I've even turned my palms up, it seems to help. Then we just curl down. And we try to feel, and you can do this by leaning back a bit, we try to feel that all the parts of the spine go curling. So there's a bit here in my back, sort of the bottom of my ribs where I fell out of a tree as a kid. I think that's my connection. And it's in a kind of tight startle place. You may have that somewhere else. So when I curl, I try to release this area. I try to lean back into it. You can touch parts of your back with your hand if you want. All the way down, and your squirrel's tail is a fox's tail. Heavy, heavy, heavy down between your legs. And then we're just going to come back up. Use your hands again. That was beautiful. Yeah. So everyone rolled down to a different degree, which was nice, how it should be. And then when we're up, we're just going to let the back of the head roll back. So don't worry about it, but the back of your head will feel like it's leaning on your back of your neck, and your neck is short, which is fine. Unless it feels sharp, just let it be. It's actually a wonderful movement for the cervical vertebra, the neck vertebra, and for the place where the vertebrae meet the cranium, because it makes that
that articulation move. Yeah, so just let it. And then as the head looks back, it starts to bring the breastbone up, and we feel the tissue of the throat being stretched. You know, your lungs are just right up there, just behind your clavicle. So it's beautiful. It's like we're pulling water mint out of the lake of your belly. And now, if the back bending thing has traveled down your ribs and your shoulder blades are hanging and sort of going towards each other, and you can feel you're leaning back onto something, and then just allow. Feet, sit bones, weight. We're inside. Now, you may need to look at me. Well, let's come up and then I'll do it again. And just come up and feel where you are. Yeah. So when you're all the way back there, you've made this first movement, and then you feel all of it, and then the shoulder girdle does its thing, and then you feel what's actually happening is the vertebrae are kind of leaning forward. They're like trapeze artists hanging from each other forward, which is amazing for the spine because it just doesn't do that. And the ribs are opening. So we're going to put our hands on our chest, and we're very gently going to lift and open. Yeah. You can do this with your hands on your breasts, lift and open, or a little to the side. Don't force, just give the movement, and you will feel delicious as your ribs. As your ribs lift and open, lift and open, lift and open. And then we drop the hands to the lap again, and we come back up. Yeah, great, great. Yeah. And now we're just going to roll down. It's going to be new because you were so opening in the back. You're just going to roll down, and this time we're going to slide forwards, so that you've rolled and your elbows are at your knees. Les coudes sur les genoux. You've slid really forward, and you'll feel that you're transmitting weight to your feet. Your spine is curved. And just let your lips hang. Swallow and drool. Let your teeth hang. You could kind of do, you know, like a horse when it whinnies. You could let your lips kind of hang and curl open. Like that. Yeah. Really let your cheeks hang. Yes, let it hang. Your eyeballs. Yeah, the feeling that your ear bones can hang forward. Yeah, and it's like the line of the back of your head is opening from side to side. Yeah. Now, lean on your elbows. You have a look if it's not clear. Lean your elbows on your knees. Lift your fingers to the back of your head. Don't pull down. Just touch. Lovingly caress where your hard coconut meets your neck. Touch into that beach. I'm thinking of the Seychelles. Touch into that beach where the coconut is lying, where the hard head meets the tissue of the neck. Yeah. And it's like you're easing your forehead to roll even more towards your chest, but don't force anything. It's like good gardening. You know, you're letting the earth and the moisture in the earth come up. You're not forcing anything. And then finish caressing your head and come back up. Yeah. Did that make sense? Yeah, so the head can each of us has a fixed place, fixed too much this way, fixed too much that way, and then we lose this movement, which we need for when we breathe, and we need for when we want our shoulders to be relaxed. So here we go again, we just roll down, don't force anything. Elbows roll to the knees. And this time, if it's okay for your back, lie your torso on your thighs.
And let your arms drop over out on the outside, so you're really well supported. Sit bones on the chair, and you're just going to let your hands drop down to your ankle place. So touch into your ankle. Don't go all the way down if it doesn't feel right. You can do everything where we were before, elbows to knees. But if you drop through, touch the dense tissue of your ankle, like we've done in the other classes where we were doing lunges. Touch your feet, touch your toes. Okay. And then if you're down here, you can use your fingers. If not, just your toes by themselves. Spread your toes. So spread your little toe away from your big toe. Yeah. Put your heels on the floor, lots of weight pouring into your legs. And then allow the 3 middle toes to come up. So we can actually move every toe independently eventually. But if the foot is tight, so if the toes are being scrunched together and the foot is grasping, we lose this capacity. So practice pulling the toes away from each other and spreading them. It's a spreading. So we have muscles that spread the toes, and then we're lifting the 3 middle toes. If it doesn't work, you can push your big toe down, push your little toe down. So obviously this is yoga you can practice on the toilet, for example. Push the toes down and lift the 3 middle ones up. Really. Then lift all of them up. Lift all of them up. And then relax the whole foot and massage your toes like I'm doing with your fingernails down the shin. Give the message, you know, that your toes don't just pop out of your foot. Your toes started somewhere in your spine, in the womb, and you got longer and longer toes, and then they got wrapped into something we call a leg. So long, brilliant. And then hands on the knees, and come back.
How's the volume? Is that okay? No comments about volume? Okay. Some. So watch me. So here we are sitting and rejoicing for yoga in the afternoon, and you are going to make this movement. So when we've rolled down, the pelvis has rolled that way, and we've rolled down, which is okay. But now we're going to roll the pelvis this way. So now you're going to develop a squirrel's tail that way. Your pubic bone is going to drop, and your bum will stick out. Yeah, so we go that way, and we put the elbows on the knees. And we have this long line. You'll notice that you naturally stay up, right? Then if you tuck your tail under, you'll start to roll down. Do that. And if you stick your squirrel's tail out, your spine does an uncurling. And because of the pressure inside there, eventually it's easy to stay up. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to reach with the right arm. So we did this in lunges the last few classes. You can stay supported with your other hand. We're going to reach, but watch me. If you stay in a flexion, in a grasp in your chest, it's going to be like this. So you have to let it go. And with you, like with your arm, you can bend the elbow. That's it. So you want this feeling that actually something is lifting you. So I'm not working. I'm just letting it go up. And then I come back and I explore with the other arm. Yeah. So I'll do the flexion. I'm holding and I'm not sure, and then I lift and then I get grumpy. That's called grumpy yoga. But if I let go and I get long and I open and my tongue is relaxed, my arm can go out. Yeah, and then it's different. Yeah, and we come back. Okay, let's come back up. Let's just roll down for a second. It's like child pose. Let's come back up. So we did this in kneeling. We called it squirrel pose. So this is the sitting squirrel. We let the tail stick out. We let the pelvis come forward. The back will naturally curve. We come forward and we're here. It's a very good thing to do if you've been at the computer a lot. And this time we let both arms go up. So don't brace. If you flex, then you're in a flexion. It's very difficult to get out of it, you see? And it just looks constipated. That's it, constipated yoga. But if you let go, and then your arms can take you up. And then we're back, we're in that back bendy thing that we were exploring, except that the arms are up. Yeah, the tail is out, the back of the pelvic floor is open. You don't worry about getting it right. Yes, that's great. You're going, your head is the only thing that's betraying. Do you feel that? See, that's amazing, because then your spine is, yeah, arms are a little closer, makes it easier. Do you feel? Easier, turn them in a bit. Easier, and drop. Drop your arms. Drop your arms. Okay, so just watch. I'm sitting. I curl, I roll back, and I could go all the way back to the chair, but I won't. I just curl. Then I slide forward. I really rest my weight. And then here I have two options. I can stay curved with a fox's tail and heavy, that's child pose, or I start to have antenna and feeler and antlers going out, going out, going up. And my spine of its own accord changes direction. It changes direction and we discover the back bend and we come up. You don't need to strain. Let your arms come a little bit close to each other like I'm doing. You can let them turn in a little bit. Yeah. And it's like you're resting against the front of your ribs. Yeah. Yes. Yes. It's the head. Yeah. It's in the attitude, you know. And yeah, you can be more forward, but it's here. And then this. And then this. That's it, and then you're much taller. Yeah, this is great. Okay. So that was easier, no? Yeah, it was easier. Great, and then come back down. Okay. So let's put the chairs to one side and just stand. So just to make a connection, for those of you who've been to the other classes, you can see that child pose is the curled forward thing in the chair, and we all love to do it. We love to lie on the floor like that, and we have a feeling, especially if we've had a back injury, that it's helping the back. It is, but it's only helping the big superficial layers of the back. It's helping relax them. But the place inside where you have the pain at the sacrum or the lumbars, it's not helping those, because usually disturbance in the lower back is because I was in this position and I lifted or I turned and lifted something. So we've been doing that, it's okay. But then we've also been doing the opposite, which is this, right? Which is what we just did in the chair. And then we've been pushing through and playing with that movement because our life is spent this way mostly, and then in yoga we can start to play like this. And it means that every one of those vertebrae starts to move again, which means the discs start to get hydrated, and you start to clear up your problem. So we can do that in standing. So you're just standing on your own 2 feet. Again, if you're super, no, that looks good. If you super turn out, bring them in a bit, but don't worry, don't get too symmetrical. And we'll just swivel a little, swivel. Henriette, come forward a step. Yeah, thanks. Just swivel, head, shoulders, arms, torso, pelvis, knees, legs, feet. Okay, then we come back to here. Okay, so I could let my head drop. And we were looking at me and I was explaining, so let's come back to ourselves, the sense of weight of the head. Very quickly the shoulders drop forward because the clavicles are on the front, so we let that. The shoulder blades go away from each other. We let the arms hang forward. We begin to bend the knees. And we slide all the way down until our elbows are resting heavily on the knees. Heavy head,
tail going down. You're resting very, very strongly. And you can feel that you can lean back a bit, you can lean forward, toes are alive. There's something soft, and yet there's a kind of work that you are doing. You can bend the knees more or less. Yeah, so squeeze your anus for a minute, squeeze your bum, and then let go. And again, and let go. And just see that you really let go. Okay, put your hand on your left knee, hand on the right knee, and come back up.
Yeah, eyes closed if you don't feel dizzy, and just feel. Feel how your body is heavy, on which foot you are. Usually they feel different. Okay, again, we're going to just let the head curl down. So any discomfort in curling down, you quickly support it with your hands on your thighs. The knees begin to bend quite soon. The tail is very heavy. Try to be with the way the weight is talking to you about your body. So not looking at the shapes from the outside. It's like we're pouring coffee from one cup to another. You know how you pour to cool it off. So we're pouring the weight of something from one place to another, and we're in there with the pouring of the weight. All the way down to elbows on knees, heavy head, soft inside the mouth. Okay, you may need to have a look at this point. So here I am in my downhill fox skiing position, speeding down a hill, and then I start to become a squirrel. There's nothing you can do about it. You're not going to win the Olympic downhill skiing medal for foxes anymore. See, my tail is going up, and my spine starts to uncurl. You see, like that. And I'm not arching, I'm not using my back at all. I was one way, I start to let my sit bones come up. That's the tricky bit. Yeah. If you're doing yoga with others, you can have them look at your bum and poke your bum so that you go from being this way to being that way. Yeah. And then you can be here. And it's quite delightful and extraordinary. Yes. Something to be done at the supermarket while waiting in line. Yeah, you want to be here. And then we come back and we go back up. Okay, try that again on your own. Slide down, roll down. Quite quickly your elbows go to your knees. It's up to you, but it doesn't need to be in slow motion. Widen your legs. Yeah, and stick your heel out. Yes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Now begin to stick your tail out. Yes. Yeah, and let it drop more. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Here we go. So you begin to stick your tail out. Your head starts to come up. Yes. Yeah, more there. You feel that? Yeah. Yeah, and then from here with your tail out and your spine long, you're just going to sail up with your arms. Yes, that was beautiful. And what you don't want to do is be here, and then you lengthen, and then as you sail, you think, oh, I can't do it, and then you flex, and then it's too late. And that's how we go about our day, getting headaches and being grumpy. So you want to be here, your ass starts to blossom back there, your antler is going that way, and then you just let your arms down, and that was it. That's the most you open. And you don't think, it's surprising how we open this. And we're moving the tissue inside the thoracic cage, your heart, all of that is being moved, as opposed to here, and none of that ever getting moved. So drop your arms, roll down, roll down, then the squirrel's tail emerges, let your arms flow up. Yeah, and open, 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 open. And then the squirrel starts to meet the fox, so then you can start to let your tail be heavy, your hands come to your head.
The hands can slide down your face, which is very yogic, and down your breastbone, and then you curl. So now you have a long curly back. Yeah, you can touch the back of your legs. You get your elbows to your knees, and then your squirrel's tail starts to emerge. So you're really practicing getting those sit bones back there. Big heels, big sit bones, spine, lengthening arms. Yes, yes, just all the way. All the way. Yeah. 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 And you come down. Yeah. Needless to say, this is good practice for kissing, right? Yeah, kissing. Because you can't kiss inflection. Come, I want to give you a kiss. It's not gonna work. You know, we have to open. We have to open when the beloved is there. This opens. So let's do it one more time for kissing the beloved. The head rolls down. You slide down, knees, elbows, and then huge feet. And then we're at the airport and the beloved comes around the corner and we develop a squirrel's tail and the arms fly up and the chest opens and of course we're undefended and it is exciting. Yeah, it's inspiration, in breath. Yes, 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 yes. Kissing 101 is even better. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the more I see these move, the more I imagine that will get better. And it's true, they move more and more, you know. But when that stops to hurt and this stops moving, then they feed each other. It's like a snowball. So let's come down onto our hands and knees. Okay. So we're closer for kissing. It's perfect. So you're on your hands and knees, and again, you get to know your habit. If you're not always being symmetrical and locking yourself into the shape of your mat, which is learning the shape of your mat, but if you really start to put your hands and knees where they want to be, then you learn the inner windiness of the river of your torso. You know, how our rivers wind to the left and the right and how they spiral. So you may notice that one hand is a bit more forward, and then you can adjust, but don't whitewash over what your body needs to do. Yeah. And it's the same with letting the hand spread. It's good that the hand spreads, that we're not grasping, and sometimes we're just not aware that we're grasping all the time. But the way to do that is through the weight, not looking and stretching. Just put the weight into your hand as you rock forward and back, as your tail and your head take forward and back. And the weight just pours itself into those beautiful pebbles of bones in the mass of the hand. Yeah. And then the fingers ooze out of that mass. Yeah. The bony mass of your hand is like a star. The head bone is in the middle, and then the bones practically radiate around, also at the joint of the hand, and they have the most wonderful names. Yeah, so it's like a star, and as you lean into it, as gravity pours into it, the star just opens. Okay, so we're going to reach back with our sit bones, toes tucked under, squirrel's tail, and we're just going to lean into the squirrel's tail. And as you lean back and then come forward, you will feel that your sit bones widen. That's the thing. That's what we want to do, is we want to get in very tenderly and lovingly and encourage the back of the pelvic floor to let go of its holding pattern. Yeah. Doesn't matter whether you tip very forward or back. There's always a holding pattern back there. Lean back. And then we let the elbows drop to the floor. So now the weight goes into the elbows, and let's, just before we put the head on the floor, just drop your breastbone to the floor. So it's like you sag
between your shoulder blades. It's a small but deep, yeah, beautiful. Now go back with your bum, left arm, back, 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 that's it. And then sag, yeah. And then we lean a bit more back and we let the forehead go to the floor. And we just rest, we rest like this. Rest into your elbows. Rest into this beautiful prostration. It's a prostrating squirrel in the middle of a forest. You, David, could go a bit more forward. A bit more. Is it painful?
No.
Keep going, keep going.
Oh, right.
Stop. Yes. Do you see? Now these are really up and open.
Yeah.
And then this is dropping through. And for you, this area here starts to move. See these ribs where they're hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. And for you, it's higher up. See, see, if you support too much here, this doesn't let go. Alors, laisse que tu laisses tomber le poids ici, et laisse que, voilà, tu peux, oui. Et laisse que ça tombe un peu. Ça va comme ça? Voilà. It's okay? So it's in here. Here, these ones, beautiful. Yeah, so you know, are you comfortable?
Yeah.
Good, so that's very nice. That looks great. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, so just breathe, hang out for a minute. You need to go more forward, 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 forward. Keep going. Keep going. Now drop there. You feel the difference? So this can be up and wide, you feel? And this can drop through. Yes.
So you can see there's a number of things that we're doing now, which obviously we did before. We've done this in every class, but we looked at for the first time in sitting. So yeah, so you can adapt. You can adapt. But this is good care for the range of movement of your torso, good care for the back of the pelvic floor not always being in the same habit of holding, which makes hamstrings feel short, and then we pull on the hamstrings, but nothing changes. It's good care for the mobility between the vertebrae, for the ribs. Yeah. Now we're going to undo the toes, and we're just going to walk backwards, and your squirrel's tail will become a fox's tail as you go back into what is often called child pose in yoga. And you make your way back. Remember, I'm demonstrating here if you need support. Different things can need support. So for some of us, the ankle tissue around the front of the ankle or the space between the two long bones of the shins are so tight that we actually can't rest. We can't rest the front of the ankle long. So you can get used to opening up by putting a rolled up towel or a cushion right there. Yeah, if you don't know or you never tried, just do, because you may be surprised. Then there's the range around the knee and the tissue of the upper leg, and lower leg. So we can put a folded blanket or a cushion between the knees, and that can also help us. If you feel that you can't go down at all and it's awful, a little bit of support on the front can help. So you play with the supports to help you settle. It's your body outside your body talking to, as it were, your body inside your body. So, John, you can stay in the other one if this doesn't feel good.
Well, I've got a bruise on my knee, that's all.
Okay.
It's
Do
right.
you want to push it?
No, it's fine.
Great. Now, we'll come out of this in the next few breaths, not by just coming up, but by, there you are, folded forwards, knees can be wide if you like, and then we're going to just slowly walk forward, arm at a time. And you'll notice you can only go so far, and it's wonderful, it's a bit of a stretch. Then if you keep going, your pelvis starts to come up. And if you keep going, the pelvis starts to tilt forward and your sit bones your bum starts to stick out. And you start to have your squirrel's tail, at which point you can tuck the toes under and go a little further. Don't go too far so that your thighs are almost vertical. Yeah, and you're doing squirrel with its bum in the air or squirrel praying in the forest. You have a huge, huge, fluffy, pre-summery tail.
I can feel it.
What?
I can feel my huge fluffy tail.
Oh, good. Finally. Good. And you have majestic, probably not fluffy antlers, but who knows. So you have this length that's happening also because you're imagining from head to tail, resting your forehead in the ground, letting your spine do its thing. Okay, so we're going to open the hands. We're going to open the palms. And we're going to push from the toes as we reach with the antlers. Now don't tuck your chin in, don't brace in your chest. Just let the majesty of the antlers be lifted as you breathe and you come forward onto your hands. And we lock antlers, me and you. Yeah. And the chest opens. So again, you could stay here, but then you're flexing. So use your toes to come through. You can turn your hands out a little if that's helpful. Bend your elbows if that's helpful. And then you could sag all the way down. It's okay, but that's not really what we're doing. If you give more support from your toes, you're less saggy and more supported. Yeah. And open up through the chest and up into the throat and face. Yeah, looking around. Yeah, looking around. And then we're going to push with the hands and reach back with the tail and just go back down. And then push with the toes and come through, which is what we did in standing. And really open, yeah. Let it open all the way up. And then push from the hands. And then we come through again. And then reach back with the tail. So you're really flying back. And now we'll make a ha sound. Reach back with the right heel. The right knee comes off the floor. Back with the left heel. Left knee comes off the floor. Talk to each other or talk to yourself. So you should sound very vibratory.
Very vibratory.
You should sound unconstipated. We're going to stay here for a while, for a few hours. Reach with your heels. The minute you stop reaching with heels and antlers and tail, you go into flexion and then it sounds constipated and scary. So reach. Yeah, and then the resonance comes back. Yeah, and you can stay forever.
No,
yeah, knees on the floor. Beautiful. Just float on hands and knees. Let the spine curl up. Let the spine curl down. Just easy. Just how you like, whatever you like. Yeah, great. Great. So, and what's lovely, I see it in the room, and I feel it in your homes, but what happens is we begin to do a very soft, quiet, lovely movement, and so we're moving the sleeve of the body. You know, we're moving all these big, powerful muscles. that after a while, they get the feeling that they're in charge and they should be guiding the movement, and they take over. That's why we injure ourselves. You know, you're in the garden, and these erectors take over, and they yank pieces because the more sophisticated stuff closer to the spine isn't there orchestrating the fine movements. So, you know, if I do like this, that's why you see these big things moving me. It's wonderful. But, you know, as we worked with the breath and we moved, I could see the wavy motion of all the interspaces. That's what we want. And then the tissue inside the sleeve, your organs, all of that, and all the pressure, all the water, that participates in making you move. Does that make sense? And that's the goodness. I mean, that's what yoga is about. That's why we say, rooted in the pose, on the wave of the breath, you do the, you know, you go into the pose and you get surprised by what your body's doing, rather than bored by it. Whatever it is that we're doing. Yeah. Okay. So we just slide forward, hands on the floor, lots of weight, curl your toes under. And now your squirrel's tail is going to take you way up on your toes as your antlers bow to the ground. Yeah, and you go way up over the toes. Of course, if you do lots of yoga, you want to put your heels on the floor, but I would delay that a bit. So up you go, David. Your bum should be ascending. Oh, sorry. Okay. Way up, bend over, and try to really be on the big toe. And bending the toes, letting the deep layers of your foot open, the deep layers of your hand. You know, this is what you want in yoga. It doesn't matter if you touch your toes or can wrap your leg around your head. That doesn't matter. That may accelerate your journey to the hospital. What you want is this deep, inner, watery, intelligent body, happy in its relationship with the sleevey body, you know, so that there's no distinction, but that the inner body is recovering its capacity to move. And when it moves, it looks like a river. It looks gorgeous. It feels freeing. You know, the eyeballs change pressure. The back of the tongue changes, and etc. So we're way up, squirrel with its bum in the air. Yeah, then the more you go up, the more the legs will straighten. Go way up over your toes, really bend them. Bend into that big toe. And now we reach back to the floor just with the left heel. Don't force, just reach back. Huge hands. Yeah, and then we're not bouncing. We're not going for a jog and bouncing. Now we reach back with the right heel. Yes, so it's like an animal walking in the forest. Right, left, right. Reach, don't push. Reach and feel. You may feel behind the knees, some of you, or behind your sit bones, or both. You know, shortnesses. Keep letting your, that's beautiful, everyone. Keep letting your spine be heavy, David. Try to, this is good. This is good here, but try to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to open the door. That's an error. Yeah, so come down before it's too late. Yeah. Great. How was that?
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice. Yeah. How was that? Yeah, the movement is going deeper and deeper through. And it's nice, you realize it's not something you can think in your head, right? It's not a thing you can think. We just do it in gravity and then we're surprised by what's happening. Okay, so lie on your backs. Lie on your backs with heads out from the center, yeah. Sit, let it go up, and legs bent. So notice what's changing. Notice what's changing. This has nothing to do with looking at. You know, this is why we like to go for a walk, why we were working really hard in the kitchen and then we go and sit down. We make this change so that we can notice the life in us, which is so wonderful. And it's deadly when we can't notice, you know, when we're fighting a deadline and just going. But that's also why we walk in the countryside and we read poetry and we go and see dance. It creates perspective, you know. And it dissolves the feeling that this body is an object, you know, and I'm stuck inside it. Because your body and your nervous system have no idea that they're an object. You know, that's like this thing, like a chair. The body with its nervous system actually feels that it's annexed to the world, that the world is a prosthesis of it, that it extends out. So that, you know, we move together. If I look at you, I may be lifting you or grounding you. And we know that when we're sitting in a car and we go down into the parking lot of Tesco's if you're in London, or Super U if you're in France, or Publix if you're in America, you know, and we dip, as the car goes under and we wonder if the top of the car is going to bang on the roof of the underground thing, we lower our heads because the car is while we're driving is a part of our bodies. So the more we have time to come back to ourselves and just sense what's going on, the more the world breathes and space is different, time is different, and we're not these objects that bump into each other so much. There's give and take, there's in-breath and out-breath. And we're of a body. We're of a body. We're of a body. We realize, you know, that we're doing things together. Turn your palms up if you haven't, and make your arms quite wide, but not higher than your shoulders. So that yeah, that's it. Yeah. Palms wide, palms facing up. Wonderful. Lots of weight through the head, through the chest, the shoulder blades, the belly. You know, these words are markers, so I'm telling you where I'm going with my thought, but they're varied, and you can use other words, or however you language. Yeah, the upper, the middle, the lower. Yeah. Heavy in the pelvis. Okay, so we're just going to let the head wobble from side to side. So not a big wobble and not something that you're looking at. Just easy, an easy roll of the weight. It's like you're pouring something warm and lovely from one ear into the other ear. Yeah, easy, and it can be a bigger movement, a slower movement, slightly more rocky, so not so deliberate. That's beautiful. And as the head rocks, of course, you will experience its weight more. And your sense of time and space will change. If you're frightened, if someone's about to attack you or shouting at you, this is not what you would be doing. Because we can't, we tighten and we get ready to cope, to run, to fight, whatever. But here we have room, so the head is heavy, it's rocking, you know, we're stimulating the inner ear system to listen up, so we sense the weight more, we let the mouth relax, we let the tongue be soft, and we allow a small a little HA, like a little trampolining on our breath. Beautiful. And as you imagine that the is in your heart place, and the makes your arms release away from the center. Don't do anything. Just imagine. And it's like, and then, just easy. Yeah. And the heart place eases, and the arm place lengthens. And the arms discover, oh, but we're made of lungs. It's as if we're made of lungs. It's as if the lungs are going into my armpits and up my arms. Oh, oh, my arms are breathing. Air is coming in through my palms. And we're going to let one leg, your left leg, fall out to the side and slide down like we've done before. Just easy, don't worry where it lands up. And it falls out to the side, that right leg or that left leg, and it slides long. And you just leave it really long. Long, 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 heavy, and we're not looking, we're not worrying about symmetry. And then the other leg falls out. That's the first part. And then the fall out to the side will make it want to slide, and you just let it slide. Try not to pick it up. Yeah, it could stop along the way, and then you have a picnic, and then you continue on your way, and the leg gets longer. Wow, that was beautiful. Long and heavy, and so you will not be symmetrical. You will, yeah, go for it. You will be wide, star-shaped on the beach in the Seychelles. Wide, heavy breath, uncomplicated, not looking, not worrying about getting the shape right. So thank you, everyone. Stay on the floor at home or wherever you are, but thanks for joining us, and thanks for your questions and thoughts. And we'll continue these Thursday classes, and I'm working on some other shorter videos that will, let's see if they work, but they will allow you, they're sort of 10-minute-y, 12-minute-y videos on a theme, so that you can go and link them together to make up your 60 or 90-minute class. But along these themes of moving and understanding and having fun discovering what the moving means for me and how it's helping me. So have a lovely afternoon or morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy. And birds again at the end. You can leave it on.
Does anybody know what the time is?
It's just gone for the 2. Yeah. Probably more.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's nice. I think it's nice overall.